Well, welcome to the first video of this YouTube channel. I am your host, Zach, and I'm so excited to be joined this first ever video by a good friend of mine, Josiah DeGraaf. Josiah, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be on for this.
Yeah, so today we are going through our top 5 anticipated stories. If you watch a lot of like booktubers or YouTubers who do film reviews, they have their anticipated of the year, whether that's these are my most excited reads, or a lot of film reviewers do. These are my 10 most anticipated films coming out in 2024 in this case. So I thought we'd do a play on that and do our top 5 most anticipated stories. So this could be anywhere from TV to films to books. So I thought I would lead off with the 5, and then we can end with we'll go 5, 5, 4, 4, and then end with your 1.
Let's do it.
So my number 5 most anticipated story coming out this coming year is the Mad Max prequel movie Furiosa. Back a handful of years ago now, when Mad Max Fury Road came out, it was not a type of movie that I would normally go see or be super interested in, just like a pure action film. But it was just wild. The blend of practical effects and CGI was really well done. I actually was really impressed with the world building, and then this one taking it back to kind of a prequel, introducing how the character of Furiosa, if you've seen Mad Max, became who she is very interesting to me. Has a great cast. It has Anya Taylor-Joy, who basically everything she does I think is fantastic. And then Chris Hemsworth, Thor from the MCU, is in it. And he looks pretty different at times in the trailer, if you've seen that.
I actually don't know if I've seen the trailer for this, which is partly because I haven't seen any of the previous Mad Max films. But I will say that with this new film coming out, watching Mad Max Fury Road is on my Letterboxd list for films I want to see this year.
Yeah, it's wild. I always recommend Mad Max where it's like does a 2-hour chase scene through the desert on monster trucks with a guy playing an electric guitar with flames spewing out of the guitar neck. Does that sound awesome to you? Because if it does, this is going to be your movie. If it doesn't, maybe. Like, I probably would have said no to that question, but I really like the movie, so who knows?
See, I was about to say I'm a sinful man, which is true, but what I meant to say is I am a simple man. You give me monster trucks and guitars spewing flames in the desert, and of course I'm gonna watch it.
Anyway, you make me like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your number 5?
Yeah, so my number 5 is actually the Penden Cycle TV series. The first season is supposed to be coming out sometime this year, and I am very interested to see what this looks like. I loved a lot of Stephen Lawhead's books when I was a teen. He was one of my top fantasy authors, and the Penden Cycle in particular was just such a unique and resonant retelling of King Arthur. So, when I first heard they were going to be turning this into a TV series, I was very excited for it. Probably the biggest question mark in my mind is that this is the first series that the studio has done, and the studio in question is the Daily Wire, which I'm not 100% sure what I think about that, to be completely honest. I feel like mixing politics and entertainment too much can create something that is neither good politics nor good entertainment. Now,
Right.
They've said that they're trying to keep politics out of it. They just want to do a good show. I am really hopeful that they do that. I also know that's easier said than done. So I don't know if it is going to be one of the films or TV shows or books I necessarily expect the greatest things of, but something that I'm perhaps anticipating the most because it could be really good, or it could just be not good at all. But I'm going to be here for it either way because I adore that book series.
Yeah, to be honest, I've never read the book series,
Oh,
but
have you read any of
I've seen
Lawhead?
kind of. I think so. It's been a
Okay.
while. But I've seen kind of the marketing and some of like the video blogs that they've been doing for the making of the film, kind of
Mm.
giving you a little behind the scenes as it's coming out, which is actually very reminiscent to what Peter Jackson did during the productions of, I believe, both The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
So creating kind of that hype machine, getting people ready for the movie, I feel like they're doing a pretty good job there.
Yeah. It's
But yeah,
definitely
it
winning
is.
me over.
Yeah, and this is like medieval Arthurian fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean I'm kind of
With
always down
with
for.
a
So.
splash of Atlantis thrown in there.
Oh, I am color me even more intrigued by this
Yeah,
pick.
and one of the most interesting things about it's like it's a retelling of Arthur, but like the first book doesn't have any Arthurian characters in it. It's all set in Atlantis, and I won't spoil much, but we all do know what happens to Atlantis eventually.
Right.
And so, books 2, 3, we get to like Merlin and Arthur, but I think Arthur doesn't even come until book 3. So it's very different in terms of what it's doing is it takes a long time to get to the actual Arthurian legend part of things, but it was a very good series, and Lawhead knew exactly what he was doing.
Nice, nice. I will definitely try and add that to my read list. Maybe not for this year, but we'll actually get to that a little bit later here.
Yeah.
My number 4, it is Amulet Book 9. Amulet is a graphic novel series. It's had 8 volumes. It's been quite a while between 8 and 9 here, and I believe from what I've heard, 9 should be the last one. This graphic novel series, I can't say I'm the biggest graphic novel reader, but this one really just captured kind of my imagination and the wonder like a good anime film does, where it's like it can be so bizarre, it can include so many different elements. It doesn't fit your typical genre conventions. So for me, the Amulet series kind of captures what I really like about a lot of anime, in that it's like the imagination, like your imagination is unshackled and you can just experience so much. And there's this crazy blend between different, I guess, tropes or genre conventions.
I will confess that I have not heard of Amulet before, so I am intrigued to definitely hear it about all of this, all of this blind. But yeah, I have really over the past 6 years, I've dipped my toe in quite a number of times into different works of Japanese literature or anime or and all of that, and I have rarely been disappointed so far. So.
Yeah,
You've got me intrigued.
yeah, I'm excited. I currently work at a middle school library, and every week kids are checking out the Amulet books, and
Really?
a few of them we've had a couple conversations about. Yeah, number 9 should be coming this year at some point, so I know it's going to be on the whole, like just have probably like 10 holds on it immediately, and just be passing from kid to kid for a while before it just sits on the shelf.
See, that's really interesting to me because I did a little bit of time at a school library back during my teacher days, and I don't think we had like a few kids who were into Japanese literature, but not many. So I find that very interesting. I love that your school there's this interested, the kids are reading it and sharing it with each other. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they really love the graphic novels and even more so the manga. So like the One Piece, the Naruto, the Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
Those are extremely popular. That's probably a good video for another time, even just like diving into like manga and Japanese literature like that.
Yeah, you'd probably have to be my guide through that because I think you're a lot more well versed than I am. But
Yeah, I did start the daunting task of starting to read One Piece this last year. So
Good luck.
moving through it very slowly, very slowly. It's kind of my casual. They're pretty quick reads.
Yeah.
But anyways, Amulet Book 9 is my number 4.
All right. So my number 4 is Children of Anguish and Anarchy by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the last book in her Legacy of Orisha trilogy, and I think I read the first book soon after it came out, and there's a couple reasons why I fell for this series, but I think one of the biggest reasons why is that Adeyemi does such a fantastic job of putting her characters in really hard dilemmas and in allowing her characters to make really interesting choices. And the choices are not always, well, this is just what the hero has to do. They are complicated characters, and it's one of the few series where the line of like who's the hero of the story, who's the villain is blurred. Because of the fact that the characters they feel so much like real people who are making difficult choices, sometimes the wrong ones, and I don't know moving into this third book, like which of our three protagonists is actually going to be heroic and who's going to be villainous at the end. I don't think they're all going to be heroic by the time the climax rolls around, but I don't know who's going to go the villain route. And in some ways, the hero-villain dichotomy is simplified things. Her story is a lot more complicated than that, but I have been waiting for this third book for years, and I'm very excited for this culmination.
I admittedly haven't read this. When you sent me your list of potential stories that you're going to be including into this video, I tried to look up the ones I wasn't familiar with. And I recognized the covers of these books, so I'm familiar. I've seen them around. And with your pitch that you just gave, I am definitely adding this to my read list because that sounds really fascinating.
It's good. It is so good. The covers are on point. So not much to complain
they are.
about there.
The covers. I mean, just talking about the covers, those were some covers that the moment I saw them, I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. Like very distinct, very different. I feel like from anything else out there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the books do a good job supporting the interesting covers with very intriguing, interesting, and captivating stories. So I will definitely check that out.
That would be my assessment, at least.
Okay, we haven't had a crossover yet. Even in a crossover of someone who's like seen the other person's like stuff, I think we maybe did finally. My number 3 is Dune Part 2. So I know we've both seen Dune Part 1, and I can't tell you the last time I've been this hyped for a movie. It's been a while. Especially like the third trailer they released. I've watched that maybe half dozen times, and it's maybe hyping me up too much for this movie. But at the same time, it's the filmmaker Denis Villeneuve. Everything I've seen that he's done, I've enjoyed. It's been from good to brilliant. And Dune Part 1 was on the brilliant side. And man, if he lands this ship, and if Dune Part 2 is as good, this is going to be one of the best film series of all time.
Yeah. So I do have to be honest that Dune Part 2 did not quite make my top 5 list.
Okay.
It got very close. It would definitely be an honorable mention, probably number 6 or number 7. It got just knocked out of the running by, really by a hair. But while it's not on my top 5, 100% agree with you. I've been a fan of Dune since high school. The first Dune film was amazing, and I am very, very interested in seeing what this Part 2 looks like because the trailers look amazing. I love the filmmaker's work, and I'm gonna be watching this in IMAX when it comes out March.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like so a couple years ago I saw Avatar The Way of Water in theaters and that was an experience. It looked amazing. And I know it's kind of it's going from more of a fantasy world to like Dune feels a lot more grounded. Traditional sci-fi. I mean, one of the greatest sci-fi novels of all time, according to probably most people. But I think Dune will look possibly even better in a sense than Avatar did. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying a lot, but like there's so many thoughts in my head. So like the cast, the Dune Part 1 already had an incredible cast, and now they're adding Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Léa Seydoux, other actors that I'm spacing on right now. But yeah, and I've heard rumors that Denis Villeneuve wants to like potentially even wants to continue the series and bring Dune Messiah to the big screen. So usually if there's like talk like that, it seems to suggest there's confidence in this project, which is always good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that particularly makes me excited for this is I was also excited for the first film, but remember watching the first film, there is a bit of while I've liked the filmmaker's previous work, I was also a bit nervous because you're like you don't know like is this going to be a great adaptation? Are the trailers lying? I've been lied to before by trailers, but seeing how well it's done just gives me a lot of confidence to just sit back and take it in without the worry percolating in the recesses of my mind of is he just going to bomb something here? So
right.
He's got my trust, he's got my excitement. I'm all here for this film.
Yeah, and like I mean we're in still the early part of January filming this video, and I think Dune 2 I think it comes out March 1st.
That sounds
or at least
about
the
right.
early part of March. So like we have to wait less than 2 months for it.
Yeah.
Which that excitement will get me through the rest of today. But anyways, that's my number 3, Dune Part 2. What's your 3?
Yeah, so my third choice is going to be Arcane Season 2. I absolutely adored the first season when it came out. I'm not a League of Legends guy, never played it, probably never will. But that first season was just so good between the animation style and the moral dilemmas and just the rich characterization. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the things that I love about Adeyemi's trilogy apply just as well to Arcane, and that both just feature some really vivid characters who are regularly on the line between heroism and villainy. And I have no idea, particularly after the end of season 1, where season 2 is going, but I am 100% here for it. Very excited to see what the second season brings.
Yes, I too am so excited for Arcane. Same boat. Never played the game, didn't know anything about it going into it, but it blew me away. It is my number 2. So good time to talk about it. We have it ranked about the same spot here. But yeah, like so the 9 episodes season 1 probably comes in around 8 hours to 9 hours. I've probably watched twice that amount of time of YouTubers analyzing Arcane and talking about the storytelling, talking about the characters, the duality. It is a masterclass on so many levels, on animation, on characters, on putting characters in situations where they have to make hard choices, on writing morally great characters that you still root for and still are incredibly invested in. Yeah, it's a great show from storytelling to filmmaking. Like, it's a show that I still go back and I have like a handful of scenes. Like I could say some code words for people who have never seen the show, but like the bridge fight. That's one that I go back consistently and rewatch for just the accumulation of filmmaking, how they tell the story with just the visuals in moments like that. It's just incredible. And it's your number 3, my number 2. We both can't wait. They dropped a teaser trailer last week, I think. It's like a minute long. It doesn't show you much. But at the end of the teaser trailer, they said November. So they promised us November. So we have to wait a while, but it should be this year.
I don't know if I've actually seen that teaser trailer yet, so I might know exactly what I'm doing after we finish recording this video. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so that your number 3, my number 2.
Movies.
So I guess we're jumping ahead to your number 2 here.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's going to be another crossover here or not, but my number 2 is going to be Wind and Truth, otherwise known as Stormlight V by Brandon Sanderson. I'm a big Brandon Sanderson fan, but among the other things that I just deeply appreciate about the Stormlight series is the fact that in many ways it's not like the fourth book in some ways felt very much like a character-driven piece. It was not just, there are the cool battles and everything else, but you're just so invested in the character relationships, in their interactions, and I think Sanderson has just done such a great job of fleshing them out as people and, finding a way to make slow, character-driven fiction, just work really well in epic fantasy. And of course, you still have the Sanderlanches for the climax and everything else, but man, I cannot wait for Stormlight 5 to get here.
Yes, we do have another crossover. It is my number 1, my most anticipated story. And this goes beyond just even the Stormlight archives themselves. It goes to how intrigued I am with an author completing a massive arc like the 5 Stormlight books. Just even beyond just like wanting to see what happens to these characters, wanting to see how the story concludes. I want to see how an author pulls this off. Like, what does he do to like weave everything together? I am so intrigued to like what I can just learn as a writer myself from this. And Stormlight 5 is the reason why a lot of these, like, going back to earlier picks, why I probably won't get to some of these books that you're suggesting that I haven't read yet until maybe 2025, because my reading plan is, I'm like, okay, I want to reread all the Stormlight books leading up to December when this last one's released. So I don't know how much time I'll have to read a lot of other things this year.
Yeah.
But definitely excited about this. Yeah, I mean, on my shelf, the other 4 Stormlight sit there. So can't wait to add that 5th one there. Hopefully the shelf doesn't break at that point, because those are big books.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so
and then I
good.
guess jumping to your number 1 after a couple crossovers here.
So my number 1 is Red God by Pierce Brown, otherwise known as the final book of the Red Rising series. I did a whole reread of the Red Rising series this past year in order to catch up with book number 6. And there is something that's just tremendous about what Brown has done in such a morally complicated world where characters have to make hard choices and they always receive the consequences for their actions. There have been so many times when I'm rooting for the protagonist, I'm like, yeah, this isn't a great move, but you kind of have to do it anyways. And then, man, like, they just keep getting burnt by the author and suffering the natural consequences of their actions. And it is, you could probably see a common theme in a lot of the stories that are on my list, that I just love stories of characters who, make hard choices, make mistakes, have to deal with the consequences of their actions, learn from them, and Red Rising, I think, is just an incredible example of what that looks like. Fourth and the fifth books were hard to get through because there was a lot of things happening, but the sixth book ended on such a high note, and there are so many thematic questions that are waiting to be answered. There's so much I want to know about the characters and where their journeys ends. And, Brad is also one of those authors who's not afraid to kill a character. So there's also part of me that's very worried about, is one of my beloved characters going to die? The release date for Red God isn't official yet, although it is, last I saw, is likely to come out by the end of this year. So keeping my fingers crossed for that. But that's what made it slightly edge out Stormlight to be my most anticipated read of 24.
Well, I was part of that reread for you because we were in a reading group
Yes.
together and went over the first book, Red Rising.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anything about the series going into it, except it was science fiction, and I'm like, I'm more of a fantasy guy. But I really enjoyed the story. It was very engaging, a great setup, and had just a ton of characters presented just in that first book that I know continue on. So I can see that, that first book was great groundwork to build clearly something special.
Oh, yeah. And I'm also a bit of a classics nerd, so all the references to Greek and Roman mythology and classical thinkers, I'm just 100% here for.
Yeah, I mean, that fits very well in the science fiction genre of including science fiction always feels like including a classical literature or some philosophy is always appropriate.
Yeah. Yep.
But those are our top 5 most anticipated stories coming out in 2024. Some, like Dune, we'll only have to wait another month and a half or so for. And then some, like Stormlight, we might have to wait till I think December was the release date. So almost an entire year. So maybe that's good that it's spread out so it's not all at once, but something to look forward to the end of the year this year. But thank you so much, Josiah, for joining me today. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so they can just go to my website, josiahdegraaf.com, to learn more about me and check out my short story collection.
Sounds good. I have read at least one of your short stories, and I really liked it. So I will definitely include that link in the description below. And we'll have to get you on again for another video at some point this year.
Yeah. Well, it's been great being on for this. Had a lot of fun doing this video with you, Zach. Here's to having many good discussions over the rest of this year about how these stories turn out.
Yes, we will have to definitely check in for each of these. But
Awesome.
anyways,
I'm down.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.